All right, so I owe you guys a follow-up video for the Omega Railmaster release. After I published that video on Thursday, I felt that it wasn't very fair for me to judge and criticize that watch based only on a 3D render from the Omega website. I really wanted to get some hands-on time and experience with the watches in person, try them on my wrist, and see them for myself to really properly give you guys a follow-up. And so that's what I did. On Friday, the very next day, I went to the Omega boutique and I spent some time with both the gray dial and the throwback vintage dial version of the brand new Railmaster. And I even compared them to my Denim Dial in person as well. And so that's what I want to talk about here today. On Thursday, I really rushed that video to get it out the very same day as the release. I did that for selfish reasons to kind of get it in front of the YouTube algorithm. It was a big release from a big brand and it was kind of controversial. Came out on a Thursday, so it would be talked about all weekend. My goal was really to get that video out there in front of as many people as possible, but I don't feel like I was able to, put my thoughts together in the best way. And also just missed completely talking about some things. So for one, I didn't talk about that vintage dial version at all. And that was a huge miss on my part because apparently that is the most popular version. Reading the discussions online over the weekend and having seen the two in person, it's definitely my favorite of the two. And I didn't even touch on it at all in the last video. So huge miss there. Another big change was the handset is completely different on this watch over the last one. We are moving towards the broad arrow handset that we've seen historically across a wide range of Omegas. You'll find it on the Aquaterra, you'll find it on the 1957 trilogy, and now you'll find it on the new Railmaster. I do like them more than the previous generation's handset on the Denim Dial. I do miss the pop of color that we had on the seconds hand in particular. My Denim Dial has that kind of copper looking seconds hand. And that was a nice contrast or like a nice way to break up the monotony of the dial a little bit. So the next big change would be the exhibition case back. And in my opinion, the only reason this watch has an exhibition case back is because the Aquaterra has an exhibition case back. This effectively is an Aquaterra, and seeing them in person, that could not have been made more clear. This really is an Aquaterra with a different dial thrown in. I think the watch wears really nicely. I really don't mind the size or the case style or anything like that. I think it is a bit lazy to not do anything to differentiate yourself from the Aquaterra line. In fact, the bracelet, again, I harped on the bracelet a lot in my last video, but I'm only going to double down on my comments there. I don't think it's the right bracelet for this watch. The high polished center link is not the right fit. The bracelet's just too dressy. I really don't know why they went that route. Again, it's probably just part sharing between the different models, but I don't really like that bracelet in general, even outside of the dial that we're looking at here on this watch. So yeah, not the greatest bracelet. I do like that they included micro adjust, but it isn't the best adjustment system on earth. And yeah, I'm not too impressed there, to be honest with you, especially for the price. I guess the other thing I would just want to talk about is that Ranchero tie-in with the sub-seconds hand version, that's that vintage dial look. This watch is clearly inspired by the Ranchero from Omega that came out in like 1958. That was a watch that kind of followed up the Railmaster, the original Railmaster, but it was different in that it was like slimmer and kind of a dressier watch. It wasn't worn by engineers. It was supposed to be more like an entry-level Omega. But this watch, side by side, it's very, very evident that this watch is the Ranchero re-release. Now, why they didn't use the name Ranchero, I don't know. Perhaps it wasn't pulling well with consumers, or perhaps because it was a flop originally, they don't want to revisit that name, or they can't use it for legal reasons, whatever. But they're calling it the Railmaster. It would have been nice somewhere to see the Ranchero name come back, but it is what it is. I'm glad we're getting it at all. My opinion on the watches now that I've seen them in person is that I like them more than I thought, but the bracelet is just not good. These watches on the leather bands are awesome. The gray dial, ironically, I said, what strap is there in your collection that would make this gray dial watch pop? Well, Omega already found that strap, and it's this black leather strap that they have with the deployment clasp. This watch looks absolutely awesome on this strap. The strap itself is a really high quality strap. It's already broken in, feels nice, looks nice. I like the slim 19mm lug width here. I just really like the look of this watch on the black strap. I could see myself wearing this watch. Now, would I buy one at MSRP? No, I don't think I would. Maybe in a couple years if I can get it 50% off, I would, but no, not at this price. And on the subject of high polish, because I harped on that on the bracelet, I wanted to say I'm not totally against high polish, and we see it here on the bezel. And my Hamilton Khaki Murph is another example of a tool watch or field watch with high polish on the bezel, and I'm totally fine with that. I think high polish in some places on a watch is acceptable and totally fine. I don't like the high polish on the bracelet, and I do prefer the brushed bracelet that I had on my previous Railmaster. So the last thing I want to touch on is the thickness of the watches, because I did spend a lot of time harping on that in my last video. And specifically, I said that the coaxial movement was making these watches bigger, but a commenter came in and said, hey, actually the coaxial movement is not the reason these watches are thick. That movement is actually thinner than other competition on the market, and those competitors are able to make thinner watches with a thicker movement. So really, Omega is doing this, I guess, out of design choice. They're choosing to make these watches thicker. I guess it's a coincidence that as soon as the coaxial movement got introduced, all the watches started getting thicker. But really, I looked it up, and the movement isn't that thick. The movement is thinner than other competitors on the market. But yeah, that's what we have here today. And I just wanted to follow up and give you guys some more positive feedback about these watches, having seen them in person. And I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the new Railmaster. Do you still prefer the denim dial, or can you see yourself wearing a gray dial or the Ranchero? Let me know, and don't forget to like and subscribe. As always, I will see you guys in the next one.